Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it. Kevin, what's going on, buddy? Nice to see you.
What is that? Good evening. Good evening, Brian.
It's virtually right now, though. I'm looking at you. I've got...
What do you got over there in my chair? What is that?
I was just going to say, for those of you that are watching this on video, you might see that there's an absence of Kevin over here in this chair. And while he's absent, I tried to find a Coasty Joe, but I don't actually have a Coasty Joe. So Uncle Sam is sitting in for you. And that's an Uncle Sam piggy bank that I had when I was a kid. And it's still got some change in it. I'm gonna have to dig that out, see how much is in there.
Does it have moving parts?
Yeah, it's got you push a little button, you put the change in his hand, push a little button, and the little bag opens up and it falls down in the bag. It's pretty cool.
Okay, all right.
I was fascinated by it as a youngster.
Absolutely.
But that's you tonight. He's got his beard's a little, well, no, it's about the same color. I was gonna say it's a little whiter, but no, it's not. But he doesn't have a full beard. He's just got a really long goatee.
Oh, goodness. Yes.
I got to have a little fun with you in your absence.
You mentioned Coasty Joe, and I sort of forgot about this. I know your folks are listening, and I told them I was going to get him a Coasty Joe, and I still haven't done that. So I know I'm probably going to get a text from one or both of them saying, "Where's our Coasty Joe?"
Right.
I gotta deliver on that one. I gotta deliver. It's coming. It's coming, Mem and Larry. It's coming.
Yeah, go ahead and get me one while we're at it, so you know that I have one next time. Maybe do they make larger ones, like like a 3-foot size model or something?
No, not that I'm aware of. They just, if you walk into the action figure section of the store, all the Coasty Joes are usually sold out because they're so popular that people take them, and they're hard to get. They're like collector's items. And you can't. All the GI Joe and the Marine Joe and all the rest of the Joes are still there, but Coasty Joe is always gone because he's sold out because he's so cool.
Well, and there's not as many of those. I mean, it's a much smaller organization.
Yes, it is. Yes, this is true.
Yes, indeed. All right, so we're not actually here to talk about you not being here and Uncle Sam sitting in your place. What are we talking about?
We are talking about a modified quote from the late, great, I hope I say this right, Fyodor Dostoevsky, the Russian novelist, speaking of Russia.
I won't be the one calling you out and saying you said it wrong.
Okay, well, he, many people consider him to be one of the most amazing writers of all time. And he made a quote, which I modified, but we could go with the original. You can be sincere and still be wrong, is what I'm calling it. He said, you can be sincere and still be stupid. I just thought stupid was a little harsh, but we could use that.
Well, I agree with you. It is a little harsh, and it's not a word I'm a fan of. I don't believe in.
Okay.
I certainly don't believe in people calling themselves stupid. Right. That's
right.
In light of the conversation we just had about stop saying things that make you weak.
Right.
That would be one of those things. Don't be calling yourself stupid. And it's just not a kind word.
It's not a kind word. So you can be sincere, and I look forward to talking about it for a few minutes. I mean, think about two things quickly. Think about all the times that you personally were so incredibly sincere about something, you knew it to be true, and you believed it to your core, and you were as sincere as you could have been, only to find out later that you were dead wrong. Um, I, I, I'm sure that there are those times that have occurred in your life. I don't know if you'll admit them. I will. I'll admit the times that it's happened for me.
Right.
And so think about that, and then think about people who also come across that way to you that may hold a different belief. And there are two areas of particular, I think, vulnerability. There are many, but two of them where people can really get themselves into trouble with respect to this topic, and that is religion and politics. Those are the two things you're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah. Yes, those are party killing topics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I'll just start out with a specific example, and then I'll let you go. With respect to faith, people of faith, they live a life where they're going to church, they're listening to elders, whether your elder is a priest or a nun or a spiritual director or whatever you want to call them, but there's somebody that's kind of in a position of religious authority in your life, and they are learned. They have studied, they have degrees, they've gone to seminary, they've whatever, and they're presenting a message about a doctrine, a truth they believe is the case, and you take it in, and it's very important to you because faith is very important to people in their own lives, and very often it's how they orient themselves, it's how they interpret the world, it's how they make decisions. And so faith becomes so incredibly important. And the quick story is, I remember when I was in college, I grew up in what I would call a very strong Christian home. And I left my home and went to college with a core set of Christian beliefs and values that I felt like defined who I was as a person at that time. And I would get into debates, knock down, drag out debates, discussions, sometimes arguments with people that I was going to college with, and told them that they were so dead wrong. They had no idea what they were talking about. I was so sincere in what I believed. And funny thing happens as you get older. That's why it's called the wisdom of the ages. You realize later that at the time you didn't know what you didn't know. And that's a really dangerous place to be in, because when you don't know what you don't know, that's when you can really appear to be a fool. And I look back and I go, wow, man, was I wrong? Not that any of those beliefs that I had were bad or harmful, other than they were rejecting every other idea that was out there. And I'm much more open to God is way more infinite than I can understand and that we can understand, and he chooses, or she, or whatever you want to call God. I call God he. And he chooses to reveal himself to people where they're at in ways that are very different across cultures. That's what I believe. And so now that I know that and believe that, wow, I'm glad that I don't have to go back and face the people that I argue with on a routine basis, because it was,
Not going to see any of those folks at a reunion at some point.
I probably will, and I don't know if they remember it. I certainly do.
Right.
So that's just one story for me. Do you have stories like that?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that when you said it, and I would certainly own it. The challenge is I didn't specifically think about those things leading up to this.
Okay.
And while I know without a shadow of a doubt that it has happened, where I've been, completely dead wrong, misguided on something where I strongly believed something was so, and was very passionate about it and would argue and so on to the end on it, but ultimately later come to find out was completely wrong. I can't cite a specific example, and at the same time I absolutely know it's happened.
Right. And in the area of politics, as we mentioned, that's another one. I can remember, and fortunately I've been smacked in the head a couple times on this one, but I have strong beliefs politically as well, as many people do.
Right.
And I know that I can get myself into these situations where I will listen to another person talk who doesn't hold the same point of view that I do. And it's like, I can't even understand how they can believe what they believe. I can't even begin to understand how they don't understand that I'm right and they're wrong. And it can be maddening. And I am as sincere as I can be. But then every once in a while something happens, some event occurs and you go, wow, now I see how and why they can believe what they believe. And it kind of makes sense. I can see where they're coming from.
Right.
And that's happened a number of times as well. So
Yeah, and I think in some situations like that, there may be cases where you both can believe a certain thing, and neither one of you is necessarily wrong or right, because it might be something that hasn't been proven. And you have, your belief, and they have theirs, and you both feel very strongly about it, and neither's right or wrong. And you can still come to the understanding of, why you could, see your way clear to give them the grace and understand why they would feel that way. Yeah, I mean, I think there's scenarios like that.
you just use a great word, and I think that's key to success here in this topic, and that is having the grace to see things from the other side, and realize that you might be completely sincere or they might be completely sincere, but if you have the grace to accept them for who they are. And what happens a lot of times is you learn, especially in the area of politics, there's something about their background, there's something about their experience, there's something that they've gone through that makes them hold that belief that you've never experienced. And so you can't, you know what I mean? That's
Right.
And all of a sudden, almost as if some scales are falling off of your eyes
Yeah.
to help you better understand.
Yeah, and you
So-
know what's interesting too, when you talk about grace and giving someone that grace in a scenario like this, one of the things that came to mind when I was thinking about this conversation is the phrase or the mentality of "I told you so."
Yeah.
So when you're in a situation and you end up proving someone wrong and they realize it, "I told you so" is it's like a foul. It's like excessive celebration. You can't have grace and "I told you so" occurring at the same time. One cancels the other out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
focus on giving people that grace. And I'm with you. So same thing. Looking into this, if you go with the original quote and leave "stupid" in there, then you find more information about the actual quote. And if you change it to wrong, or even expand and say you can be sincere and still be sincerely wrong, then a whole bunch of information out there about religious vein, and how so many folks in various religions feel certain ways, and then there are people that are polar opposites, and both of them, one of those scenarios that these folks on this side believe it to their core, and same thing over here, and who's right, who's wrong. I think Judgment Day will tell us, right?
The funny thing about the religious component to this is when you read some of those articles, and I read several of them, the people who are saying, you can be sincere, they're usually talking about people of another faith. And they're saying these people over here are so sincere about their faith, but they're sincerely wrong.
Right.
Not realizing the irony of these people are looking at you and saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Give them some slack, man. Give them the grace to believe what they believe. You could certainly share your thoughts on the matter, right? So your beliefs, and not everybody's going to come around to your way of thinking.
Right. But I want to bring it back to kind of the original premises. You can be sincere and still be wrong. And here's examples just from human, experience that we are aware of in our lifetime. I was reading recently a book about George Washington, and George was on the last few days of his life when he got sick, and he was sort of getting worse very quickly. and the doctor was trying to figure out what was wrong with him and they leeched him. They put leeches on his body to suck the blood out. We sincerely believed at one point that putting leeches on your body to suck the blood out, to bleed you, was a good act, and that was going to be something that was going to save your life. We sincerely believed for a long time that the earth was the center of the universe. We sincerely believed, all of these things in past history. We sincerely believed that human beings were physically incapable of running a mile faster than 4 minutes.
Right.
Until somebody broke the 4-minute mile, until somebody discovered.
Roger Bannister, I believe it was.
Roger Bannister. Yeah, I mean, we sincerely believed. There were many people in early history, recorded history, that believed the earth was flat. You were going to sail off the edge of the earth and
there's
fall
still
off.
people that believe that.
There are some people that still believe
and there's still, I think, some modern practices in medicine that use leeches.
Okay.
Depending upon the condition. I think that is still something that goes
there
on.
Probably is a time and
Not
place.
to the degree that you're talking about, where it's like a nature's blood transfusion. No, it's not like that.
Yeah, you know what? And somebody will probably correct me on that. Maybe there is a time and a place for leeches, but
yeah, I think there's some scenarios with like certain types of infection and so on where they can be beneficial.
Okay. Yeah, it shows you how much
and
I know.
I'm being sincere in saying that, and at the same time, I could be completely freaking wrong.
Right.
I'm gonna look it up though.
Yeah. So I guess the caution for everybody is, and this was a great line that I came across today: sincerity is not enough.
No.
That's it. It's as simple as that. Sincerity is not enough. Just because you're sincere, just because you believe it to your core, you're so sincere about it, it's not enough. That doesn't mean you're right. And you just need to know that. Because and in some cases, sincerity doesn't even matter, honestly.
Yeah. And in some subject matters, there is no right or wrong, like the whole Coke versus Pepsi. Who cares? There are people, I know which one I prefer, and there are people that will argue to their death about that particular subject. And there's probably...
All right, let's get into it. What are you? Are you a Coke man or you a Pepsi man?
I personally prefer Coke, although I don't drink a lot of it. If I'm choosing, that's what I'm picking.
Oh my goodness, you could not be more wrong about that. It's Pepsi all the way. I don't even know how.
Are you serious? I think you're sincerious.
I am sincerious. Yes. I am sincerious. There's a new word. You just made it up. That was pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I really do like Pepsi, but I accept you for who you are with all of your warts and hairs.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Coke is just much better. And, I understand that, I would think, though, at your age, your palate would have matured a little more.
No, I still like the sweet.
That's my problem with Pepsi. It's too sweet.
Yeah, it is. Yep. It is sweet. It is sweet. Absolutely.
But that's one of those things. There is no right or wrong. It's a personal preference.
Right.
Stick to the facts when you're dealing with things that you're going to have an actual argument about. Arguing with somebody over Coke or Pepsi, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Because what does it really matter? It doesn't. Let's talk about factual things, known and unknown, or known and disproven stuff.
Right.
And just don't be careful what horse you saddle up and choose to ride.
Yeah, and the danger is that you can end up, being very embarrassed. You can find out later that you were dead wrong, and yet because you were so sincere in your beliefs, you had an impact on somebody and maybe led them astray. Because, wow, you must be right. You're so sincere. I think I'm going to join you in that whatever belief, and only to find out I'm okay. But can you hear that? Can you hear that ambulance coming? I'm fine. I don't think they're coming from me.
I'm looking at you. I'm like, you look okay, right? You're not in need of medical services, are you? Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay.
Everybody that's listening and watching can hear it.
Yes, yes.
Kevin's okay. They're
One
not
of,
coming
one of
for
the
him.
dangers of this particular location, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, stick to the facts. You said that earlier, and I think to the degree that, and of course, people can argue over the facts too. But I guess it's just I thought it was important to for people to realize just because you're sincere doesn't mean you're right,
Yeah.
and equally as important, just because somebody else is sincere doesn't mean that they're right either.
Yeah.
And if you have the grace to know that and accept that, you're probably going to adjust the way you approach situations where sincerity is a component, and you just gotta be mature enough. You gotta have to have enough wisdom to realize sincerity is not enough.
Yeah. You mentioned maturity. That's interesting. That's a whole different conversation because I think that some people think that maturity and age occur together, and they travel the same path. They're on the same trajectory, and I don't particularly feel that way.
I think you're right about that, actually.
Yeah,
I think,
I
yeah,
think you can have people that are very young in age that are extremely mature, and people that are up in age who are immature as all get out.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, and yeah,
And I'm
I
sincere about that.
I chuckled because I actually think of my daughter. I call her an old soul. I've called her an old soul forever. I mean, she was 15 years old, and I called her an old soul because there was just something about her
Right.
that was mature beyond her years. I mean, like way beyond her years. For whatever reason, she just got that. I don't know why, but very cool, actually.
Yeah. That is very cool. I saw her this morning.
Oh, very good. Hope you said howdy to her.
I did.
All right. You guys at the gym,
Yes, she was.
buffeting your bodies and making them
She
your
was the
slave.
outgoing crew, and I was coming in for the next class.
Okay. Very good. That's good. Good that you guys are taking care of yourselves.
Yes. Well, at least going to the gym. I don't know. Some might argue that smoking a pipe and drinking beer is not all that good for you, and they
Yeah.
would be sincere in that argument and
Hmm.
completely wrong.
And here's my final point on this topic. You may have more, but this is my final one. Sincerity can be very emotional, right? And emotions have a big impact on your mind and on your subconscious and on your and so if you and there's a lot of self-improvement people that'll tell you get a belief and then get emotional about that belief, and it penetrates deeper into your brain and it sort of becomes who you are, and so you can move in a direction by having that high level of emotion connected to the thoughts and beliefs that you have, and that it's actually a good thing. But if you're wrong, and if you can take sincerity and combine it with the emotion that a lot of times comes with a lot of sincerity, and you drill that into your brain, what you're drilling into your brain if you're wrong is something that's wrong. And
Right.
you can get stuck in a position of being wrong, not knowing that you're wrong, self-fulfilling, um, projecting that out into the universe, and next thing you know, you're going down a path where you are sincerely wrong, and it's going to come back if you're wrong to probably haunt you at some point in some way. There you go.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Makes
The one,
sense.
yeah, the one it absolutely does. The one word of or words of advice that I would offer is, pay attention to the reactions that you're getting from people around you. So if you have a strong belief or you're sharing information about something that you believe to be so, and you suddenly realize that there's a bunch of people and maybe in different scenarios, not just, you might want to run across one group that's like-minded and they're all going to disagree with you. And at the same time, if you start running across multiple people that don't agree with you, then you might want to look inward and figure out, maybe I should verify what this is that I'm hanging my hat on. And then conversely, if you're one of those people, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, that is looking at somebody like they've lost their damn mind because of what they're saying. I think you go back to something we've talked about in previous podcasts, in that seek first to understand, and really try to understand how they could feel that way, why they could feel that way, what experiences have they had that maybe created the belief that they are expressing.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking, to solidify that very point, it just popped back in my mind. Do you remember when my brother Denny was on the podcast a long
Yes.
time ago, and he was telling the story about the guy on the train who had his children with him, and his children were just running rampant and all of this horrible stuff on the train while he was in his seat, kind of being quiet and ignoring his children, and the people
Right.
around were upset that he wasn't controlling his children and taking care of them and telling them to shut up and all that. And then, of course, you find out later that he had just been notified that his wife died.
Right.
And he was just so distraught that he couldn't even begin to do anything else except kind of be in his own head. And his children were running around the train crazy. Point being is, until you know what's going on, and you don't understand why they're people they are, and it's the same thing with this whole sincerity thing.
Yeah.
And in this case, you are so sincere, and why doesn't he take care of his damn kids? I'm sick of it.
Right.
You're wrong. You're wrong in your sincerity because you don't know what's going on. And if you had the ability to have the scales come off your eyes and you understood the other perspective.
Yeah. No doubt, and that's a great story too. It certainly causes you to stop and think, give you a little pause. Here's I'm glad you shared that story because it sparked a memory that I intended to share with you.
Okay.
That happened yesterday, and so as we're leading up to this conversation, and I'm thinking about what we're going to discuss and so on, and my truck has been having some charging issues, and I think we've narrowed it down to a wiring problem, and ultimately, as a result of this, one of the other things that surfaced is the battery was weak. So I've only had this battery for maybe a year and a half, and it's supposed to have a 3-year warranty, right? So I take it back to the store that I purchased it from, and they looked it up and they verified that, yeah, I bought it a year and a half ago, so it's still got X number of dollars worth of value left in it that they'll refund me or put towards the next purchase. And so they look it up and they don't have one of those in stock. And the lady that I was talking with says, we might have something different. And I said, okay, what else? What do you have in stock? Because I need a battery today. And so she said, well, we've got this, and I'm no expert on batteries. So we have this other battery, but it's not a gel cell. It's not an AG. I think AGM is what she said. And I said, well, what's the difference? What's the benefit of having the AGM battery? And she said, well, they're just a higher quality battery. They last longer. And when she said they last longer, I just kind of looked at her and said, really? And the error of her statement kind of jumped into her head too. She's like, oh yeah, okay. Because clearly the one we're looking at right here that I'm returning does not evidence that.
Right.
So I just thought that was
AGM
funny.
that I'm about to hand back.
She was very sincere about, and they last longer, well, except for this one,
Right.
I just thought it was funny.
There you go. There's a great example.
Yes, sir. Oh, see, I talked too long. My pipe went out again.
Yes, that's the way it is.
Yes, indeed. All right.
That's what I got for you, Brian. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you picking this topic. And we got 2 of yours back to back, so I'm on deck next, and we know we've got some more guests coming up too, and we'll definitely have some exciting things to come. But I appreciate you throwing 2 of them out there back to back, and having the flexibility to record in a different format tonight. So thank you very much. Good conversation.
Yeah,
and this is something we can all benefit from, because I think we all periodically find ourselves in these type scenarios where either it's you or the person that you're having the conversation with feels very sincere about what they're saying, and they're completely damn wrong.
Sincerely wrong, indeed.
Yeah.
Right.
So make sure what you're doing out there is sincere and is correct. Put the priority on correct before the sincerity. It's better to be correct and not as sincere than sincere and completely damn wrong.
Right. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's about time to wrap this up. So no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, make sure between this podcast and the next, you take time
to enjoy the ride.
I actually think we got that right on this.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.